Welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Summer Circuit Feature Tournament number 2. We're about to jump into the grand finals between Pavel and Hoj, and one of these players is about to punch their ticket to the finals at PAX, an all expense paid trip to PAX Prime in Seattle at the end of August. They win $3,000 for this, and will compete for $20,000 at PAX plus over 200 World Championship points. Jockey, that's a lot of World Championship points. How many World Championship points do you have, Jockey?
I have like 81.
81.
It's like enough to put me in 12th or something in a three-way tie with Strife Crow and somebody else. It's okay. I want to do better on the ladder this season. We'll see how that pans out. I actually I got into top 100 last season.
Nice.
There were about 300. There were about 3 hours left, and I did not fall out of top 100 by losing. I fell asleep.
Rip.
So I literally fell asleep at my desk. Woke up. It was about 4 a.m. It ended at 3 my time. So
such a hardcore gamer.
I was like, maybe I got it. I did not get it. I forget why I was so tired. I guess I'd gotten back from where did I even go? Sweden? Yeah. I got back from Sweden.
Is tiring.
No, I was actually playing Priest. I'm a changed man, TJ.
Sorry. I apologize.
I'm just hoping the new Priest hero is maybe like an orc, because I do still go face with Priest, but
yeah, well, no Priest in this one, but there is a lot of smork going on.
Yeah.
Pavel and Hoj, very similar deck lineups from these guys. The only difference in their lineups being the Mage for Hoj and the Warrior for Pavel. Also, their Warlocks are a little bit different archetypes. Pavel has the Handlock, where Hoj has the Demon Zoo. So the common denominator here being the Hunter and the Druid, which Hunter has met a lot of success. Druid hasn't met too much so far. It's probably one of the lowest win rates out of classes that we've seen like more than 3 or 4 times. But with both players bringing it, it's sort of going to be an even playing field going into this final.
And we're going to start with the matchup we've seen a lot of, which is Hunter versus Druid. Hunter seems to be getting the best out of this matchup, but when the Druid gets a really explosive start, they can kind of come back. This is not that explosive start that we see from Pavel. Even emotes, oops, that he didn't have wild growth.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's kind of could be a storyline here, is no wild growth, no win.
Yep, and Hoj curves out really nicely as well, so
yeah, it seems like if you don't get to play a turn ahead of the Hunter, they will just kind of outpace you and push too much damage. This is a turn where Hoj does have to fear a swipe. It would clear his board and leave his opponent with something, but there is no swipe. It's just going to have to be keeper. Not the worst plays from Pavel here. We might have to switch perspective here. Just as a reminder, Hoj is the Hunter. And it's looking like as long as Hoj can kind of produce good enough stuff, he can just maybe smork his way home.
Yep. And he's got the burn already in his hand with a double kill command. He's thinking whether or not he wants to trade in here. He'd probably trade in Glaive Zuka.
Yeah. This does threaten the shade with the freezing trap, but at the same time, you don't get to play Shredder on 4, which you can never really be thrilled about. That's basically the best time to play Shredder. I'm a little curious why he was so eager to get that out. Maybe just afraid of taking too much face damage early on. We do see Pavel does have the combo, and he actually has Emperor as well, which kind of acts like a pseudo-innervate to get it out on turn 7.
Yeah. Harrison Jones coming down on the Glaive Zuka. He's going to be able to draw. It's not the most impactful Harrison, because Glaive Zuka is not as meaningful as Eagle Horn Bow, but it's still an extra 2 damage that he's removing off of the board. So Harrison Jones landing on anything is still pretty good.
Yeah. Hoj has the option here to kill command the Harrison to threaten the freezing again, but I like saving it. I like just getting that shredder down. I almost would have liked to just get it down on turn 4, but the kill commands only get better as the game goes on. It's not so much the same with the shredder. You really need to get it down early, pave yourself away to get into this turn 6 high main, and really take over the board and in the game with those kill commands.
Yeah.
Now, Pavel's piecing together a lot of damage. Like if he were to just drop Emperor and pass, he'd actually Hoj would be one off lethal with double kill command. But the Force Savage would be able to be played next turn. You could bounce a tree.
Whoa!
And that would be a lot of damage. I mean, if your Emperor and your Shades survive, which your Shade's almost guaranteed to, the Shade's going to provide 8. The combo's 14. That's 22. So you just need one more thing to survive. And I really think that's what Pavel's considering here. But also, he has the option to just taunt. He has the option to Force of Nature to just get rid of this freezing trap now. Gonna go with the Force of Nature at the end of the day. This lets him push damage as well, but it doesn't really set him up for a lethal.
Yeah.
He needs to go quick as well. Looks like he got
time.
No, he actually got roped on something. Nope.
Nope.
Got it through.
All right.
If that was a taunt, things could have gone much worse. Now, that is going to be 11 going into next turn, so 11 plus 6 would be enough with Savage or Force. So that's something Hoj really has to respect. Wouldn't be surprised to see a kill command come out on the Shade and maybe bow face. Set up for lethal going into the next turn, putting him to 9. That would be a little susceptible to the taunts or a heal from Ancient Lore. So suddenly, I mean, I think Pavel's put himself in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, being able to get that Harrison actually ended up being a big deal. Getting a card further in his deck, getting rid of that 2 damage from the Glaive Zuka, and not being able to play that Paladin Shredder on turn 4. And you said the Druid being a turn ahead is what he needs to do, and he ended up being able to do that because he had the Shredder was played onto a board that the Druid already had control of.
Yeah, I mean, Ancient War has to be one of the best draws in the deck. You have to be a little concerned about Ironbeak Owl, but really there's no other play that protects you. So he's going to just kill that to play around Ironbeak Owl.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think... he might actually have him with the Druid Savage. Somehow Hoj has to remove, so that might involve like kill commanding the Harrison, which isn't a play I think we're likely to see.
He could remove the Ancient of War here, but
yeah, but he'd have to use his face. He could do that and then use the Hound to get rid of the Harrison, and then he wouldn't be dead. But it almost feels like that's just using up all your resources. You won't be able to kill Pavel next turn, and he'll just be able to play another taunt and then combo you out.
Yeah.
So it's probably has to be some sort of a turn where you hope your opponent doesn't have something.
I mean, he could put him at 5. Oh, no, he couldn't. He could only put him at 8 because he'd be using the bow charge into the Ancient of War here.
Yeah, I really don't see this working out. I guess he could draw like Quick Shot. He's not dead, but like I said, I mean, he's just going to drop another taunt. And there's really nothing that Hoj can pick up to not die to combo. I guess there's Lotheb, so he's got that hope. Would Lotheb even do it, though? If he plays Treant this turn, there is a chance he won't play the Treant, though. Might just Hero Power to play around something.
I think Treant would have been the same. But
yeah, because he put his face into the 1/1. If he went face, then he'd play around double Quick Shot.
Yeah.
But I think he doesn't have double Quick Shot since he didn't kill you last turn, right? Yeah.
Yep. So now Hoj finally is just going to have to drop down the Savannah Highmane and hope. But Pavel does have what he needs and some. He's
Yeah,
thinking, how am I
so
going to kill him? Okay.
that's a big win for Pavel. I mean, it's an unfavored matchup since it's that slower hunter, but really, Hoj did have, like you said, a nice curve, but Wolf Rider on 3, significantly weaker than Animal Companion, just died to the Keeper this game. And
Yep.
even just the Keeper forced Hoj to take kind of like a trading line that didn't end up working out too well. I might have liked to see him just go for Shredder, hit face a lot more aggressively with that double kill command draw, and maybe that would be something Pavel didn't think he could play around, and he'd end up losing to.
Yep. So Pavel's got to be pretty happy about taking that match. Yesterday and Friday, we actually saw Hunter just dominate Druids throughout both days. But today, we've actually seen 2 Druids take out Hunters, which is a little bit different of a trend than we've been used to seeing so far in feature number 2. So we're going to move into game number 2. It is going to be Pavel on the Handlock versus Hoj, who is going to throw out Druid in place of the Hunter this time around.
Yeah, this is a nice matchup for Hoj. He does have the Wild Growth. He has a Keeper to deal with the Twilight Drake if that lines up correctly. Generally, this is considered pretty heavy into the Druid's favor, nearing 60 to 70%. But Handlock could definitely take it. Potentially, if he gets a lot of threats in a row, maybe if he gets a Giant and there's no big game hunter from Hoj. But right now, the Handlock actually just has nothing.
Mm-hmm. None of his turn 4 threats or turn 5 threats with coin. Does have Belcher and Lotheb, but much rather have Drake or Giant.
Yeah, he just has to pass this turn unless he wants to throw out BGH as a 4-2. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things we kind of talked about was Pavel has been making very aggressive plays. He decides he's not okay with doing nothing. Needs something on the board.
Yeah, he could get punished later on because Dr. Boom is in the hand of Hoj. So when that comes down, he's just not going to have a good answer to it with BGH being thrown out on turn 3 just to contest something.
Yeah, I don't know what this really contests anyway, since...
On turn 5, yeah.
Yeah, you're not really going to buff it, and you don't have like a Mortal Coil to add to it. You're planning on just playing a 5-drop, so I guess he just wants a body for later, and he can maybe protect it behind a Sludge Belcher. But looks like Hoj is actually going to throw out Keeper, kind of thinking, okay, he probably doesn't have a Drake since he didn't coin it out. You'd almost always want to coin out a Twilight Drake over just playing a big game hunter on turn 3.
Yeah.
And he has that second Keeper anyway, so...
Yeah, he can have that one for the inevitable Twilight Drakes once those come down, but Hoj is hitting things pretty nicely here. He's got Emperor. The Emperor is going to have to be dealt with here from the Lotheb. And then he's still sort of got initiative on the board. Keeper's not that strong of a body, but at least it's something.
Yeah, he didn't hit great cards with that Emperor, but just hitting an Emperor on 6, like you said, to force your opponent's trade in their Lotheb. Now he knows that this Dr. Boom is completely fine since you've already seen one big game hunter. Yeah. It's unlikely that Pavel has 2 in hand and decided to throw out 1. That could happen, but it isn't the case here, so Dr. Boom is going to be really tough to answer for Pavel.
Yeah, so this is one of those plays that the Emperor made possible, is being able to play the Dr. Boom on turn 7 plus Wrath down to take out the first body of the Sludge Belcher. So Emperor didn't hit too many priority targets, but it did open up this type of play, which is could be a big deal in the long run.
Yeah, the other thing is, from Pavel's perspective, all he knows is that there's 3 more cards that were reduced. Those could be combo pieces. They could be, more removal. They could be just minions. But he doesn't know until he sees them. So he has to respect a lot of plays. He can't play as aggressively, which is one of the trademarks of his play style. And that might end up just costing him the game.
Yeah. Still none of those threats that he has. Dr. Boom on turn 7 is something.
Yeah, he will get to maybe remove the whole board this next turn with Hellfire Dark Bomb. But it's more of just the case of you're just stabilizing. Turn 7 is one of those turns you'd much rather just play something like Dr. Boom rather than respond to what your opponent's doing and let them redevelop.
Judging by Pavel's play with Handlock in the last couple matches, he seems to play Handlock um, very defensively. Like instead of playing Doctor Boom in this situation, playing the spells. I guess you can't really fault him because he would have been dead to combo. Playing Doctor Boom is really risky, especially since cards were reduced, and he hasn't seen still 2 of the cards that were reduced, and he just draw 2 cards last turn from the Ancient of Lore. We can see they didn't have it, but I think it's a fair play to play that safely there.
Yeah, I think that's a turn where basically you have to play safe. Almost everyone would need to there. Dr. Boom doesn't really do anything. It just dies to the board. You're dead to so many spells. Like that's a turn where it's really you don't really have an option anyway. So now obviously he's just going to throw out Boom and hope he's not dead.
Oh.
Yeah. Is he just dead? No, he's 1 off lethal. With Swipe Keeper. So not quite there. So that big game hunter will be a little relevant.
Yeah, it looks like he's just gonna attack first.
Oh, he can steal it.
Okay.
Yeah, he knows the big game hunter's out of the way, so and if he gets a lucky bomb, he won't even have to Wrath. Nope, he does have to Wrath, and he gets a 1/1, so that's a little nice for Pavel here. And there's a chance he plays a second big game hunter, and I mean suddenly if he picks up a second big game hunter, he can deal with the board, and Hoj is just out of stuff, but it's a little optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not quite dead in the water, though. Actually, is he? Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's exactly dead. Keeper, swipe.
Yeah, you can't really play around the double reduced cards. This is a play that's not normally possible, so.
Yeah. Well, looks like Hoj is going to tie it up. Pavel not really hitting his threats until later on in the game. Really killed him there. Playing that BGH on 3 and then meeting a Dr. Boom on turn 7 was just really rough, something that he wasn't able to come back from. And so we're going to have a tag game. Both players now taking victories with their Druids right off the bat. So now we're going to get down to the real Hearthstone.
Oh, man.
Hunters and
shots
Warlocks.
Fired at Druid. Yeah, this is the Hearthstone we're all used to. You queue up a game on ladder. These are the real classes, man.
Yeah, Druid is. I don't want to call it. Druid is one of those classes that you like queue up when you're like really tired. It's the class that just like sort of plays itself. You just sort of click on the cards that are green and place them on the board.
You really can't screw up too much with that strategy on ladder, but there definitely is some thought to it. We're going to see Handlock versus the Hybrid Hunter from Hoj. Pavel did decide to keep both the Ancient Watcher and the Molten Giant. Have a little bit of early game presence. Realizes he'll probably get really low and need a Molten Giant to swing in the game. Pretty common keeps.
All right. Coining out the Knife Juggler.
Yeah, looks like Hoj decides, the odds he has Dark Bomb kind of low. Going to go for a very aggressive line here. Just getting maximum damage. I really like this from the Hunter side. As a Hunter player, you basically have to realize you have to take risk at some point in the game. You can't always assume they have everything.
Yeah.
And you have to push damage to kill the Handlock player.
Come on, Huffer.
I don't know if you really want Huffer, necessarily. Well,
come on.
There's Huffer.
Yes.
I mean, Misha's pretty good. It pushes the damage delayed, but you don't need to rush your damage in this matchup. The Molten Giant obviously punishes that, so Misha's a little more resilient to board clears.
Yeah. In this case, Huffer ends up being just...
It's pretty nice, yeah.
Strictly better, because you get to push... Since he taunted up, you got to push the 4 damage.
Yeah, and there's Huffer's best friend, the Arcane Golem. Yeah, but these aren't really... I mean, the hand from Hoj isn't really what you want to be playing now. You obviously want to save Owl for later for a real big taunt. You don't just want to throw out Abusive Sergeant. I mean, you can, but I would say that's probably his best play is just like Abusive Hero Power. You don't want to Unleash on 2. you definitely don't want to ramp your opponent's mana with Arcane Golem and push him closer to Moltons, so...
Hmm.
I think he might opt to save that Huffer, but if he does that, he's super weak to Hellfire. I think no matter what, he's going to be weak to Hellfire here, unless he goes for, like, Unleash, Abusive one of the Hounds into the 2/3, and then he plays a little around it. Looks like that's what he's doing.
Yeah, this fits the curve really nicely as well. He doesn't weave in the hero power, but it's not too big of a deal right now, just because you don't want to get him too low before you know you can push through. He does have Owl,
Ooh,
and wow,
that's a nice pickup.
yeah, it's another wall combined with the Molten Giant. Plus, later on, it can be used as a Shadow Flame target.
Yeah, I think Hoj is really just looking to get to his Savannah High main in a good position. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him not take his opponent down as far as possible. I mean, he's got 4 on board, 2 from the hero power. I could even see him just clearing... I guess he can't clear the Watcher that well.
Arcane Golem into it.
I mean, you know Pavel can play a Molten no matter what, but you don't really want to give him the option to Molten Sun Fury. And you definitely don't want to give him the option to Molten Sun Fury. Maybe it's going to be one of those turns where you decide you really can't play around Molten. But I think especially if you paid attention at the beginning of the game, Pavel kept that far left card in his mulligan. Wouldn't be surprising to see him deliberately not attack here.
Yeah. It's actually a really tough turn to navigate.
Yeah, he could just go all in. If he did 6 and played a Haunted Creeper, that put him exactly on Moltons. He'd only have 5 on board. He could win, but feels ambitious here. He's definitely, yep, just decides not to play on Molten Giant. It's going to get a little punished. We'll see how much. If he double taunts, he won't be just dead. If he heal bots, he will be taking a little more damage, but...
Looks like he is. Mouse over the Owl, so that would indicate he's going to go for a taunt.
You could taunt and Shadow Flame the Sun Fury here. That would only remove 1 damage from the board, though.
Yeah.
But it would remove all the beasts, so...
Owl Shadow Flame is not really an option because then it still leaves you vulnerable. You'll still leave 2 damage on the board, and then you're dead to a couple charges.
Yeah, so he's just going to go for the Owl and taunt. The Owl didn't really do much here. It just let him proactively clear off that 2/1.
Yeah.
Freezing Trap, not a good pickup from Hoj, but he can get through the... it's going to be really tough for him, because if he gets through the Watcher, he opens himself up completely to the board clears, and then his Savannah High main can even get cleared off.
Mm-hmm. He knows that he's... has he seen both owls so far?
I believe only just 1.
Okay.
Because he's seen both Sun Furies.
Okay.
So
And both Watchers.
both Watchers, both Sun Furies. He hasn't seen any board clears. Hasn't seen a Heal Bot or an Argus, which are both in the hand tier. Can't both be played, though.
So this high main's actually pretty tough to deal with because regardless, he leaves himself pretty susceptible.
You can clear it with the Shadow Flame on the Owl.
But you leave it at 2 health.
Yeah, that's still a little tough for Hoj to get through. Like, if we look at his hand, he really doesn't have any way to end the game, and this makes the Owl significantly weaker.
Yeah. Because owling an 8/2 giant is not really the best feeling in the world, especially when you know that something else could get taunted. He has been through both Sun Furies, though, so a lot of Handlocks only run 1 Defender of Argus.
Yeah.
Some still run 2, but it's a little bit more rare.
You do have to consider Sledge Belcher, though, which the Owl is much more effective against. So I guess I'll just Wolf Rider into this 8-2, I would say.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's not what you want to see. I guess, like you said, he's going to kind of assume. But you've seen both Sun Furies. Hope he just doesn't have them. This sets him up to have a draw for the win with Kill Commander Quick Shot. In fact, it almost like telegraphs that. So yeah, we're just going to see Healbot here. As it seems to Pavel, it seems a lot more likely he would have Kill Commander Quick Shot than he would a second Charger.
Yeah. But until he kills his antique Healbot, Freezing Trap is basically a dead card
Well,
in his hand at the moment.
Hoj needs to get this 4 damage in now, and he's going to realize that and go for the Arcane Golem, I would think.
Yeah. Even if there's a taunt next turn with Leopard Gnome on the board and 4 extra damage being put onto the face, he's gonna put Pavel at 5. So he's still going to be on like a quick shot or kill command to win.
Yeah, that's the key amount here. You've seen one Healbot. There's really only Healbot and Jiraxis now that keep you out of this game. There is a second Argus though.
Oh.
But it's going to be really tough for Pavel here to push 26 damage before Hoj can draw something to win. He might need to top deck something here.
I think he's got a couple turns to do it. Animal Companion.
Leok, not that great. He obviously cannot play Freezing Trap because the Healbot's out there. If he rolled Huffer, he could play it by killing... Oh, man.
Wow.
And Jiraxis off the top.
That's rough for Hoj. Not really much of a reaction out of him, but that's pretty much going to lock out the game. There's no way he can do 15 damage. He's dead the next turn, so
Yeah,
I think that's going to do it.
That's it. And...
Well, Abusive Sergeant was the next card, so I think he still would have lost anyway, because Defender of Argus would have added an extra 2 damage the following turn, which would have pretty much made up for the Draxus. But Pavel is going to take game number 3, so he's going to go up in a 2-1 lead in this series. But so far, it's been really, really close in this one, and Hunter has not really struggled to find wins that much, so I'm sure Hoj is going to be able to do it at least once.
Well, it has struggled in this series. It's currently 0-2, losing to 2 favorable matchups, and it's been Hoj on the receiving end both times. So, I mean, you can't be feeling too great there. He's only lost twice in this tournament so far until this match, and now he's down 1-2. It's a bit of a new feeling as far as this tournament. I mean, obviously, veteran of tournaments, he's lost before. Been down before. It's not over, best of 7, so he's actually going to throw out Hunter again, it looks like, and we're going to have a mirror match. So someone's Hunter is going to get a win here.
Yeah, if Pavel can win this, he's going to be in a really great spot. Winning the mirror matchup is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, especially because his last deck is Patron Warrior,
yeah.
which would line up pretty nicely into all 3 of Hoj's remaining decks. He has 3 of those very aggressive decks left with Hunter, Zoo, and Tempo Mage.
Yep, and Pavel not really hitting his 2-drop as well as he would like. I mean, he's not able to play a drop on 2 because he has to deal with the Hunter Creeper, and the most efficient way to deal with it, other than just playing an Owl, is just to Freezing Trap it, and Hoj is going to replace it with another one.
Yeah, the Freezing Trap wasn't too terribly efficient. And now the Misha is going to get answered by the Juggler. He has 87.5% chance to clear this, and just nails it on the first one. So
yeah,
and I mean, this is right before the Juggler Unleash turn. We don't even see an Unleash at the moment. The players by now know each other's traps, so
the Juggler Snake Trap.
You can't really feign an explosive trap here or anything. No shenanigans like that going on. Hoj would immediately know it's Snake Trap since you wouldn't play a Freezing Trap onto this board.
Yeah, you would just go face. Just give him an excuse to go face even more.
Yeah. Oh man, he can actually get the Juggler Unleash off here, and he knows that the trap that Pavel would get would be a Freezing or a Snake. So I'm not sure if he really wants to go for that. His other options basically are Juggler Hero Power or just Haunted Creeper. Of course, he's not going to play any of the burn spells in his hand. I feel like this is a pretty nice hand, pretty nice turn for the Unleash. You do have a little risk of getting counter Unleashed, though, going into turn 5.
I feel like Unleash would have been used last turn if he had it.
Yeah, that is potentially the case. He's going to get a little fortunate here that there's no Snake Trap, but I think, yeah. So he checks for freezing. He knows there's no explosive, and now he has the luxury of clearing off that last 1/1. And this is going to put Hoj into a really nice spot.
Yeah, if Lothar comes down here, he can pretty much just ignore it and just keep pushing that face damage with Arcane Golem and Hero Power. So going into turn 6, I don't think you're really too worried about giving your opponent extra mana.
Yeah, I think he might just go for that Shredder. He could alternatively do like Juggler Arcane Golem. Could do Arcane Golem Hero Power. I don't feel like the Hero Power is going to push more damage than a Knife Juggler, though.
That's true, because double Knife Juggler will do the 2 extra damage regardless.
Yep, and you set up 3 for the next turn. So decides not to mana ramp him, just playing extra safe there. Now he's thinking about if he wants to trade into this. He is in such a nice spot that he could probably afford to play around and Unleash off the top. But I really don't think you can ignore this much damage.
Yeah, it's just a lot of damage on board. Even more just straight up burn in his hand. I don't think Pavel's going to be able to come back in this. I think he's just dead next turn.
Yeah, he actually throws out the Shredder before killing off the Juggler. A little interesting. Could have maximized his chance a little bit more, but let's see. That should just be it.
He needs...
No, that's it.
Okay, yeah, it's 7 damage.
With the kill command, that's plenty. So 1 over lethal without any daggers.
All right.
Ties it up.
Yeah, so that was bound to happen. Pretty inevitable that he was going to take a win. I mean, maybe not as much because you said the 2 good matchups for Hunter, Pavel was actually able to win. So he finally managed to take it, ties it up 2-2. Pavel has Hunter Warrior remaining, and Hoj has Mage, Tempo Mage, and the Demon Lock remaining. If I had to say here, it feels like these 2 decks from Pavel have been the ones that have had the most success for him and the most success across the tournament. So just looking at the one-on-ones, it feels like Pavel's in a really great spot. Yeah,
it feels like Pavel's a little favored here. I mean, they both have 2 different decks. Hunter has to be pretty fine against this Demon Zoo deck, but it is a very weak start for Pavel. He is playing not only just a slow list of Hunter, but it's a lot slower than we've seen from like Hoj with the Chargers and more 1-drops, it seems like. But he did hit a 1-drop off the top, which is going to be pretty big moving forward.
Yeah. Hoj, though, he's got a pretty decent hand. He's got Haunted Creeper, and he also has the Knife Juggler to be able to get a couple extra juggles once he cashes in on this.
Misha would be pretty nice. Nope.
Leok. Leok's okay.
Yeah, so it's a decent hand from Pavel. It went from being a horrible hand to, salvageable. So Hoj, the real key card here, especially with double eggs, is going to be Defender of Argus. But other than that, I really wants to find a Void Caller to cheat out that Doomguard.
Mm-hmm. Or ways to just activate these eggs.
Yeah, it feels like unless Hoj picks up some nice stuff that he's a little behind. Imp Gang Boss not going to line up too well into Piloted Shredder. And if the Hunter gets to a turn where they can just play Savannah High Main and not get too punished for it, like the health totals are still pretty high, they tend to kind of take over the game.
Yep. And it's looking like he's going to get to that stage because Imp Gang Boss is just really not threatening. Next turn, he does have cards that are going to be able to fit his curve. He has the option to Animal Companion Mad Scientist, which is a pretty big deal. So it looks like Hoj is really just not happy with his hand, so he's just going to go ahead and Doomguard, take the card reductions, and take control of the board.
Yeah, it's a nice play. I mean, it does kind of it's a very aggressive play, but the Doomguard's still going to die to that bow. The 5 face damage isn't nearly as relevant for the Hunter as it is for the Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless he can, I think still the key card here for him is going to be that Defender of Argus. Rolling for 3 there is pretty nice. 4 obviously would have been ideal. But yeah, I mean, he's not in a terrible situation. The high main will get to come down on a reasonable board. But I think if Hoj can pick up some real gas going forward, he could pick up this game.
Yeah. Decides to ignore the mad scientist for now.
Yeah.
And he knows what secrets they are, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he would ignore it then if he knows that it's freezing and he could most likely. I guess he realizes that he's going to be trading a lot. So if he gets snake trap out of that, he doesn't want to. There we go.
Ooh. Yeah, so there's the freezing. Only gets a 1-1, and now Lothab's going to come down, and it's almost... I mean, I feel like Pavel has to keep hitting face here. He will get a decent turn here, playing a bunch of minions. Hopefully he can snipe off that Imp Gang boss. But
Hopefully he doesn't snipe off the Nerubian egg.
yeah, he can get extra juggles by killing the 5/5. So suddenly it seems like he could actually go for a board control play, but 6 damage to face is a lot.
It is a lot.
The 5 damage isn't nearly as relevant for Hoj because he's already seen 1 Doomguard. He can't be that afraid of dying. But yeah, he's going to go for the trade. Misses the egg, that's
Uh-oh.
good. But yeah, suddenly, I think you still have to go for it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yep.
He goes with the threaten emote, too.
Literally the worst juggles he could have gotten. He juggled once into Lothab, which didn't matter, and then he juggled... And there's the Argus, so... Boom's going to come down this turn. I think Hoj is going to just kind of push face damage. It's a really tight match.
Sets up lethal for the next turn. Pavel does draw a quick shot, so he will be able to cycle, but I think it's looking a little bit too late. He hasn't gotten him down nearly enough. Like, he's still at 22 health, and Pavel's out of cards. And he can't ignore this board, so he's going to have to throw a lot of this damage into some of this damage into the board, and then try and top deck a lot of damage before Hoj can draw into pretty much anything. So it's looking pretty grim.
Yeah, he has to quick shot the 4/4, I think, to stay alive in this matchup. Yeah, he goes for that, so... Still alive. The Abusive Sergeant really doesn't do anything because he's not going to want to clear off the Dr. Boom anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He has to clear off everything besides the Boom because he wants to freeze it. And he knows there's a 1/1 Imp in Hoj's hand, which could actually come in handy to threaten to proc the freezing trap. The nice thing is, if you do stabilize as the Hunter, there's no inevitability factor from the Warlock where their hero power will kill you eventually.
Yeah.
So if you can stabilize as low as 1 health even, as long as you keep absolute board control. And he will get it onto the board.
Not too bad.
Yep.
Good thing here for Hoj is that he can taunt up the Dr. Boom.
He can just replay it if he wants. But yeah, I think taunting up and threatening to freezing the Argus is fine.
Also
no reason
threatening
to risk it.
bring out that 1/1 Imp.
And just going to be a concede. Pavel basically realizing he can't afford to take a swing of 8 to the face, and he can't break through an 8/8 taunt, so...
All right, well, Hoj is actually going to be on match point. He's got 2 opportunities now to find a win with the Tempo Mage. He's going to go up against Pavel's Hunter and Patron Warrior. So I think there's still a decent chance for Pavel to still take this one. But Hoj is statistically likely with 2 opportunities to find a win.
Yeah, it's not terrible for Pavel, but it's really not great. These aren't awful matchups for him. You might even say each matchup is favored, but just the fact that Hoj has 2 chances to take this puts him in a nice spot.
Yep.
Especially with the Mana Worm.
Yeah, Archmage Antonitis isn't the best, but Flame Cannon picking that up next is going to be pretty good. Going to contest whatever's going to come out first here for Pavel. And basically, he's just going to coin out Knife Juggler. Actually...
Yeah, he's going to quick shot it.
Quick shot, yeah.
Yeah.
He's thinking about it.
You have to be very aware that Flame Cannon and Frostbolt really do blow you out quite a bit.
Yeah.
uh, with just the knife juggler play. Though all you really take is 2 extra damage if you go for juggler first. But yeah, so he's gonna go for this. This is kind of like a small risk, but it's got a nice reward. Like you almost force your opponent to play a spell, and if they don't have it, you feel really good. And in this case, you take 2 damage and you just quick shot it anyway. So it's not a
Yeah.
huge deal for Pavel.
Yeah. Hoge picks up the Arcane Intellect. That's a pretty decent card considering his hand quality is not the best at the moment with just Archmage and Mirror Image.
Hmm.
Um, if you can pick
Yep.
up like a Flame Waker here, it'd be even better, but still Arcane Intellect on turn 3 is not the worst play. There's a
Yeah.
Flame Waker.
Yeah. Flame Waker is going to be really nice. The Animal Companion pickup for Pavel though is incredibly important. Oh, but it's actually not the best one.
You can snipe the Huffer here with Flame Waker.
He's gonna
and
go
Mirror
for
Image.
it. Yeah, it's a play that 25% of the time puts you in a commanding position.
Both
Misses
things.
both, which is actually probably a big deal. If he hit at least one, he'd have the option to just ping next turn. But
Hmm.
in this case, I mean, really not much going for him. He can go for
Mana
Mana
Worm.
Worm, Mana Worm Fireball, or Mana Worm Yeti. So he gets another chance.
Snow
That's
Chugger.
It's much lower this time. Okay, so he gets to kill off the Snow Chugger at least.
Yeah, he's still building up a pretty resilient board though. Lotheb's gonna be problematic to deal with, but I don't think it's gonna be that much of an issue.
Well, it is a big deal. It definitely denies a few plays, and it denies him from getting value off the Flame Waker this turn, and next turn he can just get rid of it. So instead, Hoj is just gonna have to go with a weaker play. He could have gone Yeti, Unstable Portal, not in that order, but just gotten the Unstable Portal and gone from there. Instead, he just has to go for Azure Drake, which is a weaker body.
Sorcerer's Apprentice picks that up. If he does manage to like stabilize the board here and be able to get down a Mechanical Yeti, he can put down Archmage Antonidas, and if he's healthy enough to play Archmage Antonidas safely,
Hmm.
which doesn't look like it's going to be the case,
Right.
then that could be a pretty big win condition because you can just clear the board every turn and just set up for fireballs to the face to end the game. You don't even have to worry about traps in that case.
Yeah, Pavel's in a really good spot here. He's pushing a lot of face damages, going into a Doctor Boom turn. As long as there's no like mirror entity, you're completely fine here. Uh, you're threatening to freezing every turn. Voidwalker,
Voidwalker.
not too terribly relevant. It might
No.
block 5 damage though, if he wants to protect those 1/1s and 2/1s.
Yeah, but Doctor Boom is going to come down this turn, and
Yep.
with that freezing trap still sitting there, he's just going to be able to clear here, and either of these targets is not a great freezing trap. So it looks like we
I
are going to
think-
be going to a game 7.
Yeah, I think for Hosh here, you have to freezing the Azure Drake, trade in your Mechanical Yeti, hope you get the freezing spare part, and go Archmage freeze the 7/7.
Yeah,
I don't even know if that really puts you in that great of a spot, but
Or you can
it's about
fireball
the
King
best
next
you've
turn.
got. And he doesn't get the freeze spare part, so like you said, that's probably going to do it. He could just like reversing part his own Archmage and hope it lives. It would not live, but
but he can hope
yeah,
and get
gotta
a
be a
fireball.
little optimistic.
He's just staring at so much damage. It looks like that is going to be the play with the reversing switch, but we know that it's just going to get traded in pretty easily with Abusive Sergeant and the bombs.
Yep.
All right.
So pretty much gonna seal it up.
Ouch. And 3 to the face. And it's going to be even more face damage here. Just 1.
Yeah, but 1s is plenty. And that's going to do it. We are going to Game 7, and it's going to be Patron versus Tempo Mage.
which,
Which,
oh man, that's going to be a rough for Hoj. It feels like this Mage deck is just on such a lower level than the rest of his decks. It's just so much more inconsistent than his other lineup. We talked about it earlier in the group stages and even in the semifinals. He only dropped one game with his core three, with his Druid, his Hunter, and his Warlock. And now all of a sudden he throws the Mage into the mix, and this deck has already lost twice out of 3 games that it's played. So it's going to be a tough matchup for him going into this. But Hoj did manage to find a win with this Temple Mage against a Patron Warrior in the semifinals. That was the deck that he did beat when he played against Dogs. So it's very doable, and it should be a really good Game 7. But here we go, match point between these two players. Winner of this game qualifies and punches their ticket to the grand finals at PAX at the end of August, and they also go home with $3,000. So a lot of money on the line. Runner-up does get $1,500, so that is still a lot, but doubling your prize pool and going to PAX is a pretty big deal for these players who, Hoj, he's made a name for himself, but he's still probably an up-and-comer, and Pavel is definitely a big up-and-comer.
yep, qualifying for LAN always pretty big deal for, basically no matter how far you've come in Hearthstone. There are very few people that are like, yeah, another LAN, no big deal.
Yeah,
So,
well, there are some out there.
there are some, but
Yeah.
those are far and few between. So it's a really nice start from Hoj, and there's really not a great answer to any of this from Pavel. Now, Patron Warrior is one of those decks where you can fall behind, but I mean, perfect answers for Hoj here. He's going to get to Flame Cannon this. He's thinking about setting up a Mirror Entity. He's going to decide to go with Portal instead, though. I think I like that a little better.
Yeah. Not really anything on 4 that you're going to copy. It's probably just going to Death Spite.
Yep. So 3/2 will die, and he won't be able to go Mirror Entity and Silverhand Knight next turn. Silverhand Knight's still pretty good. Wouldn't be surprised to just see that this turn along with a ping. Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough to come back for Pavel here. Maybe something like Inner Rage would be pretty nice to make a bunch of patrons. Could go for that line of play.
But he's going to take so much damage. He's going to take 3 this turn. It's going to put him at 18. Then he's going to have to swing into the Silverhand Knight next turn, which is going to put him down to 14.
Yep.
And we already see one piece of bird already in the hand of Hoj with the Fireball. Flamewaker can turn that into even more damage. So even though he does have stabilization tools, it seems like he's already taken so much damage with how good the hand was early on from Hoj that it might be tough for him to stabilize in time before his health gets low enough for Hoj to just finish the game with burn.
Yeah, Whirlwind would be pretty big pickup here. Didn't quite get it though, so
Armorsmith's okay, especially it protects you against Flamewaker, which is a big thing. Not as big since turn 5, you can't really do too much with it, but it makes it so trading gains him health, which could end up being a big deal in the long run.
Now, one big consideration for Hoj here is trading in his Mad Scientist gives him a secret, but Mirror Entity can be a liability in this matchup for that unstable ghoul. It can create a board state where you were ahead and suddenly now there's 2 unstable ghouls, your board's wiped, your opponent gained a bunch of armor, and I mean, there is a Fireball and there are burn spells in the deck, but it's not an insane amount of burn where you're just guaranteed to win off of burn like it is with Hunter. It's more of just like an added benefit for this Tempo Mage deck.
Yeah. So second Death Bite in hand, that's going to be really nice to trade into this Flamewaker here. And he's also going to be able to start gaining armor, and Dread Corsair could end up being a really good tempo play as well. I think right now he needs to... he's going to think about whether or not he needs to start worrying about using that as just a big tempo damage blocker as opposed to more damage later on. I think that's a smart play.
Wonder if he's going to Inner Rage as well. Looks like no. So he is going to gain a lot of armor off Armorsmith. We can't really see Hoj's hand right now. We do know he has 1 Fireball, a Mirror Entity, I believe an Arcane Intellect, and
the Archmage
one other
Antonidas.
card. Archmage Antonidas, yep. So Archmage could be pretty huge going later into the game. If Hoj can pick up some of those spare part generating cards, we'll try to get his hand back as soon as possible so we can check out those cards.
Yeah. We got his face back.
Yeah, but I mean, for Pavel, it's definitely you're just trying to stabilize. For Hoj, trying to find some way to keep in the game and burn your opponent out.
Yeah. He's running out of time here. We should have the hand back up in just a few moments here. So for right now, we'll just continue to role play as Pavel.
Oh man, yeah, he has to ping off that armor smith twice, which is just a lot of armor. I mean, oh wow, he can get so many patrons and so much armor this turn. You do have the one consideration Pavel has to think is, do you really think Hoj would run Flame Strike?
I don't know, but you kill off the rest of your board, so you're sort of just replacing the cards that you do have with
Yeah, but
patrons.
you get the armor, you get the patrons. I like it. I mean,
Yeah.
this board's really weak right now. The patrons would be a lot more powerful. They'd threaten a lot of plays. You'd heal yourself out of complete burn range. You're not really in that range right now. You could just Emperor, but yeah, it looks like it's going to be that really powerful play here. He could choose not to Whirlwind and just go for maybe Cruel Taskmaster. Nope, he's going to Whirlwind, going to get all that armor.
Wow. And Hoj's hand is not really that great here. He's got a lot of expensive stuff,
Yeah,
which is not going to help him much.
That's 4 patrons. He could make more. I think I'd like to see him make more. Yep, he makes more. This does table lethal. It's 21 damage. So Hoj cannot afford to just play something like Doctor Boom. He has to start paying off these patrons somehow, and I don't think he can.
No, he can like play Mana War and Mirror Image to try and block some damage, but then he's only left with 5 mana, so his play is like Flame Waker Ping. But Flame Waker is actually a liability because it locks him up from using spells the next turn because he just doesn't want to spawn more patrons.
Yeah,
I guess it doesn't really matter at this point because the board is almost full, but still, this is looking grim.
I think the patrons. Yeah, it's looking grim. TJ, good one. It's the patron play was really the key here. I think it's developed a much stronger board than he had. The 1 health targets are super susceptible to Flame Waker, and now he's just created a board. He's at a health total he can't be burned out from. He's got a board that's going to kill his opponent, and his opponent has nothing he can really do about it. He can taunt up to stay alive for a turn, but really, what does that do? So,
Yeah. Well,
here come the taunts, and so he's going to have only 16 showing right now. And that doesn't do it because of the way he can't really spawn extra patrons, and he can't play that loot hoarder. So it's not quite over.
yeah, but
It's
pretty
over.
much, yeah. Unless
Coulda
he's
got-
got a Flame Strike hidden in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. There's some guy watching. He's like, "This is why I play Flame Strike in my Tempo Mage deck."
Yeah.
Ladder Tempo Mages, but
Flame
yeah,
Strike wouldn't even clear the board; it'd still leave the Emperor.
yeah,
All
and
right,
that's
he
it.
goes ahead and concedes, and Pavel punches his ticket to PAX. He's going to be the second player. He's going to join, I believe, Kalento. Kalento
Yep.
did win the first one. And so 2 Eastern
Going to
European
PAX.
players going to PAX so far.
Yeah,
All the way across the globe. I guess Kalento doesn't live there anymore, but that's really exciting for Pavel, a guy that is known to be sort of a ladder hero who hasn't really had his breakthrough. He played super well. His deck choices were on point. You look at his deck lineup; those were the decks that had the most success so far in the tournament. We were a little bit questionable about the Druid, but it ended up working out for him today. He took a couple wins over Hunters, which ended up being what brought him here. And after a really close game 7, he managed to stabilize and push through with those patrons. So big congratulations to him. $3,000 on top of that as well.
Yeah, I was really impressed with his play overall. I thought he made a lot of really intelligent, just not just singular plays, but deciding how he was going to play out the entire game holistically, based on the cards he had in his hand, based on the cards his opponent was playing, and what he thought they had. We saw a lot of really aggressive patron play from him. We saw a lot of really aggressive play from just every deck he had. And that's basically what it takes to get here. One of the most popular strategies in the game, and made him a winner today.
Yeah, and Hoj will not go home empty-handed. For taking second place, he will get $1,500, which is still quite a bit of money, and he'll also get 16 GEICO points, which is a substantial amount. So taking second place in the feature also lines you up quite nicely to be one of the front runners to making it through to packs through points. So I'm sure Hoj is going to be trying to place highly in those open qualifiers as we go forward to try and rack up some more GEICO points to put himself in a good position to go forward. And speaking of the opens, Chalky, you've told me that you're not going to play in the NA qualifier tomorrow, but for those of you who do want to play, Chalky, where can they go?
You can head over to liquidheart.com. We're only halfway through this entire summer circuit. There are 4 European events, 4 North American events. The European one is tomorrow, and the North American one is on Wednesday. And after that, there's still plenty more. So we have 2 more feature tournaments. You could find yourself in this tournament. You could find yourself punching a ticket to PAX just like Pavel just did. So be sure to go over to liquidheart.com and sign up for those.
Yeah, each of those has a $250 prize pool as well. So we do broadcast the final 4 of each of the qualifiers. So you can find yourself on a broadcast as well if you want to try and make a name for yourself in the scene, maybe win some cash, some more championship points, and find yourself at PAX. Also, make sure you head over to geico.onog.gg. We want to give a big shout out to GEICO. They are the title sponsor for this event, working with One Nation of Gamers to make this all possible. So if you want to show GEICO how much you appreciate them, you can go to that website. You can get a quote. It really gives GEICO a good gauge of how many people are supporting them and their endeavors in the esports scene. You can also enter in to win an official TSM PC. So if you're a fan of TSM or if you're just a fan of sick PCs, you can head over there and enter in to win that. You can also get more information about the tournament and how the GEICO point system works and all that. But I think that's going to do it for us. Chalky, you have any final words, shout-outs, thoughts that you like to give before we send everybody on their way?
Yeah, big congrats to Pavel for winning. Feel like he's a pretty underrated player, kind of just now getting some breakthroughs, qualified for stuff like Gfinity earlier this year. So excited to see how he does at the LAN. Big shout out to One Nation of Gamers for having me, and GEICO for sponsoring the tournament. And thanks to you, TJ, for casting with me.
It's been great, Chalky. Always love to cast with you. You're such a bright mind and
Yes.
an astute Cardstone observer. So thank you very much for joining me. And thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, a big congratulations to Pavel. So for myself, from everybody from GEICO, One Nation of Gamers, and Team Liquid, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.